I was brought up in the Church of England. My parents had always gone to church and they took me to church. And I don't think they ever talked to me about religion, but that was what you did. And I have to say I liked it. I liked it very much. But I think what I liked about it was the aesthetics of it. I love the building. I love old buildings. And I could bore you for hours on the subject of church architecture. I love the music. I love the words, and still do. Therefore be careful, be watchful. The devil like a ravening lion prowleth about, seeking whom he may devour. It's just full of those wonderful words which still come back to me. I even liked all the sort of medieval flummery of it. I actually liked people in strange costumes and archdeacons and the whole business of that. I liked it so much that I was very tempted to go into the church. And I became a lay reader. So every week I had to take services and preach sermons. And that causes me to think in two separate directions. And the first was affected by the fact that my subject was drama. I was a drama specialist. And therefore I tended to think about how you set up a production and make it work. And I realized, in fact, that was what I was doing as a lay reader. I was planning services as theatrical performances. And I'd reached the stage where if I went to somebody else's service, I suddenly turned into theatrical critic, and I'd come away saying, well, I wouldn't have done it like that. And that made it absolutely impossible for me to worship, because I was thinking about the effect on other people and not on the effect on myself. The other problem I encountered was, of course, having to preach sermons. Because, as I said, my appreciation of the church had very largely been aesthetic. And of course, you can't preach aesthetics very much from the pulpit. You actually have to talk about things. And I realized that actually there had to be kind of intellectual rigor to some of my religion. And as all teachers discover, as soon as you try to explain things to other people, you start to understand things rather better yourself. And I realized that an awful lot of the words that I've been saying over and over again, I didn't understand or I didn't believe. And I realized I was having to cut things out. By the end, it must have been extremely confusing to the congregation as we said the creed, because I left so many bits of it out because I didn't understand them. Fortunately for everybody, probably, I moved, because up to that point I'd been in a large parish with 3 churches and a sick vicar, and I'd been taking an awful lot of services, and it was impossible really to get out of it because the need was so great. But I moved into another town, and I thought before I got involved in the church again, I'd have a kind of peregrination. I'd go around all the other churches. And I started by going to the Quaker Meeting House. And that was about 30 years ago, and I've never left. And I realized that it had stripped away everything that I was used to in the church. It had stripped away the words and the music and the dressing up and the ceremonies, and even the theology. And it had left me in a great, empty, very scary space in which I had to start again. I had to start from the bottom rather than the top. I had to begin with, why am I here? What do I believe? What's the truth? And I spent 30 years as a Quaker in the silence of worship trying to find the answers to those questions.